Hey up my duck YouTube, welcome back to another video. I've decided, seeming the non-league campaign has kicked off this weekend and the National League North-South is kicking off tonight with I think a couple of National League North yesterday. I decided that I'll be looking at non-league and where they have highest finished in terms of a current football league system, with National League North being higher than Northern Premier League, current system like that. I'm also want to say I'm very sorry to all Macclesfield Town fans. It is truly a horrible experience to no longer have a club to be following, and the National League and just general footballing need to consider how football is run, because the fact that during this COVID time that a football club has gone out of business without any sort of relief and stuff, and just straight since 1874 they're around and now they've just gone. So I do feel sorry for them, and I might cover a video doing something about it separately, but I'm just feel so sorry for the fans. So I will start off with the from the top of the highest place they finished and work their way down. So in 1890 and 91 and the 1901 season, Notts County finished third in the First Division. This is the first time they reached third was in 1890-90, and matched it 10 seasons later in 1901. They reached the FA Cup final in 1890-91, where they were defeated 3-1 by Blackburn Rovers at the Oval, despite beating them 7-1 a week earlier. Just to say, I will be going relatively quickly over each club, unless there's a particular one I really need to, just want to highlight, because my voice is going to be knackered by the end of this. Bradford Park Avenue in the 1914-15 season, when they finished 9th in Division 1. They achieved this highest ever position of 9th at the end of the 1914-15 season. And in 1914, Donald Bell, a man who would go on to win the Victoria Cross, played 4 games. At the outbreak of war, he asked to be released to serve, rising to the rank of lieutenant. In 1916, he received the Victoria Cross for conspicuous bravery on the Somme before being killed later that year. Very, very sad story. Next one is Chesterfield. In 1946-47, they finished 4th in the Second Division, which is currently the Championship. After the war, the club achieved their best finish, finishing 4th in the Second Division in 1946-47, as I already said. That's pretty much it. Stockport County finished 8th in 1997-98 in Division 1, which is also now a Championship. Dave Jones left as being manager for Southampton in 1997, and Gary Megson took over as manager. County finished 8th in the First Division in his first season, only 2 places off the playoffs. York City was in 1974-75, when they finished 15th in Division 2, which is currently the Championship. It changes a lot, the name Championship. This is the club's highest ever league placing, and it was actually in mid-October 1974. They were actually 5th in the Second Division, but they finished the season in 15th place. Wrexham in 1978-79 finished 15th as well in Division 2. In the 1978-79 season, Wrexham also made it to the 4th round of the FA Cup, when they narrowly lost to Tottenham Hotspur 3-2 in the replay after the first game finished 3-3. The Spurs team had stars amongst their ranks, such as Ozzy Ardiles, Ricky Villa and Glenn Hoddle in their team, and Wrexham were unfortunate to get knocked out. Darlington in 1925-26 finished 15th in the Second Division. Seems a lot of 15th. Yeovil Town, relatively recently actually, in 2013-14, finished 24th in the Championship. They only spent that one season in the Championship, and despite enjoying memorable victories over Nottingham Forest, Sheffield Wednesday and Watford, they suffered immediate relegation back to League One, which began a gradual demise, which meant they were back into non-league a couple of seasons ago. Hartlepool United in 1956-57, they finished second in the Division 3 North, which is now League One. There was no promotion in them days due to only the champions being promoted, but they did win the Durham Challenge Cup in this season. Torquay United in 1956-57, the exact same season, ironically also finished second in the 3rd Division South, the same level as the 3rd Division North in League, what is now League One. And they just missed out actually on promotion on goal average. The season had begun well, and by April, the possibility of first promotion to Division 2 was the talk of the town. After home wins against Northampton Town, Southampton, Newport County, and Queen's Park Rangers, United found themselves sitting at the top of the table, with future World Cup winning manager Alf Ramsey's Ipswich Town just 1 point behind. A trip to Crystal Palace for the team and over 1,500 Torquay fans travelling on the last day of the season beckoned. Torquay only needed to win the game to be certain of going up, but they only managed a 1-1 draw at Selhurst Park, and Ipswich, who won their final match away to Southampton, took the title on goal average. How harsh must that be? But, you move on. Southport have both been in this position twice in both 1924-25 and 1938-39, where they finished 4th in the 3rd Division North. There was no playoffs, of course, as I've already said in these days. And in the latter season, they did actually get to the 3rd round of the FA Cup. Can't remember which one of them seasons. I think it was the 30s one. Dagenham Redbridge in 2010-11 finished 21st in League One. And the Daggers' first game in League One of the 2011 season was a 2-0 defeat to Sheffield Wednesday on the 7th of August 2010. After one more defeat against Notts County, the team got their first point as they drew 2-2 with Tranmere Rovers. And the first win of the League One season came just a week later as they beat Leyton Orient 2-0, with both goals coming from Romain Vincelot. It was an unsuccessful season in League One, and they finished 21st and were relegated on the last day of the 2010-11 season back to League Two. Barnet in 1993-94 finished 24th in Division 2, which is now League One. Goalkeeper Gary Phillips took over manager during a difficult summer in which Barnet marginally survived by a vote of expulsion from the Football League, EGM, and lost the vast majority of their promotion-winning side in a tribunal, which nullified the players' contracts. Phillips cobbled together a few remaining players and free transfers. And in January 1994, Phillips was assisted by former England goalkeeper Ray Clements, but they were still relegated from Division 2. Aldershot Town in 2009-10 finished 6th in League 2. 2 months into the 2009-10 season, manager Gary Waddock and assistant Martin Cool accepted offers to join Wycombe Wanderers. As a result of this, Jason Dodd was appointed as caretaker manager, assisted by Paul Williams, before Kevin Dillon, the former first-team coach at Reading, was appointed as Waddock's permanent successor in November 2009. 2 days later, Dillon appointed Gary Owers as his assistant manager. Under the new management team, Aldershot finished the season in 6th place, to be fair, qualifying them for the playoffs, where they lost 3-0 on aggregate to Rotherham United. Kidderminster Harriers 2001 and 2, 10th in Division 3, which is now League 2. They won the Worcestershire Senior Cup, and Harriers received the biggest sell-on fee for a former non-league club, picking up £700,000 when Lee Hughes joined Coventry City in August 2001. Kidderminster had sold Hughes to West Bromwich Albion in 1998, and under the sell-on clause negotiated by manager Alliner at the time, received 15% of any further transfer fee. This was activated when Hughes moved to Coventry City for a reported £5 million. Boston United in both 2003-04 and 2005-06 finished 11th in the third division. During this time, they were obviously a mid-table team. And in 2005-06, they did win the Lincolnshire Senior Cup. By the way, the third division then was League 2. Altrincham in both 1979-80 and the following season in 1980-81, they finished first in the Alliance Premier League, which is now the National League. They won also the Bob Lord Trophy and defeated Scunthorpe United in the FA Cup second round. In the league's inaugural season, which saw Altrincham crowned champions, and in the subsequent elections to the Football League, the club missed out by a single vote, receiving 25 to Rochdale's 26. This was considered especially unfortunate, as the club had been promised votes of Grimsby Town and Luton Town. But the Grimsby representative was prevented from voting by being in the wrong part of the meeting room. Bit strange, yeah? And the Luton representative was too late after a mix-up over the start time, so it's extremely unfortunate. Altrincham then retained the Alliance Premier League title the following season, but again failed for Football League elections, this time only receiving 15 votes to the 41 received by Halifax, who are again the lowest ranked Football League club. Wealdstone in 1984-85, first in the Alliance Premier League. And as I said, that is now the National League. And in 1984-85, the club had its most successful season to date, winning both the Alliance Premier League. But they also in this season did manage to win the FA Trophy, beating Boston United 2-1 in the final at Wembley Stadium. This was the first ever occasion that the non-league double had been achieved by any team. Woking in both 1994-95 and the following season of 95-96 became second in the Conference National, and they were the second only club to win back-to-back FA trophies after Scarborough did it in 1976-77. They defeated Kidderminster Harriers in the final, and the Cards also achieved 5 successive top 5 finishes in the conference, including being runners-up in 1994-95 and 1995-96, when both times they happened to finish below Stevenage. Solihull Moors, actually, in 2018-19, finished second in the National League, with a total of 86 points. Under Tim Flowers, the Moors spent the entire season at or around the top of the league. They ultimately had to settle for the second place and a place in the playoffs, as they missed out on the title by 3 points. The Moors were knocked out of the playoffs by AFC Fylde in their semi-final at Damson Park. A second-minute goal from Danny Fillerskirk proved to be the difference. The club also reached the second round of the FA Cup, where they held Blackpool to a 0-0 draw in a televised home leg in front of a record crowd, but they lost the replay at Bloomfield Road 3-2, conceding an extra-time penalty. Weymouth in 1979-80 finished second in the Alliance Premier League. There was no playoffs at this time, so that did mean that there was no chance of promotion. Kettering Town managed to finish second in the conference in 1981-82, 1988-89, 1994-93, and 1998-99. Come on, just win the thing. In 1988-89, They reached the fourth round of the FA Cup. After beating Dartford in the first round, they defeated Football League opposition Bristol Rovers in the second round and Halifax Town in the third, before losing 2-1 at the First Division Charlton Athletic in the fourth round. I think that's a pretty good going, to be fair, only losing 2-1 to a Premier League or First Division team. I don't know if that was Premier League then or not. I don't think it was. I think that was actually the equivalent of a Premier League team now. Sorry, I'm waffling. Braintree Town in 2015-16, they finished third in the National League, which was renamed actually in that season. Which meant they qualified for the playoffs. And despite winning the first leg at Grimsby Town 1-0, they lost the home leg 2-0 after extra time. Sutton United in 2017-18 also finished third in the National League. And on the 19th of August 2017, Sutton beat Chester in a league game to take them top of the National League, the highest league position in the club's history, although of course they fell from then. In the penultimate game of the 2017-18 season, on the 21st of April 2018, Sutton recorded their first ever win at Ebbsfleet United's home of Stonebridge Road, which assured a National League playoff place. In their final game on the 28th of April, in front of a record league attendance of 3,541, Sutton beat Aldershot Town at home 2-1 to claim a playoff semi-final place and a best ever league finish of third in the fifth tier. The playoff semi-final took place on 6th of May 2018 against Boreham Wood, in which Sutton lost 3-2. Gateshead finished third in the Conference Premier in 2013-14, which qualified them for promotion to the playoffs. They defeated Grimsby Town 4-2 on aggregate in the semi-finals, setting up a Wembley final against Cambridge United, but they lost that 2-1. Boreham Wood in 2017-18 finished fourth in the National League. And in the 2017-18 FA Cup, Boreham Wood beat Football League opposition for the first time, defeating Blackpool 2-1 at home in the first round. In the second round, they lost 3-0 at Coventry City. The club went on to finish fourth in the National League at the end of the season, qualifying for the playoffs. After beating AFC Fylde 2-1 and Sutton United 3-2, they lost 2-1 to Tranmere Rovers in the Wembley final. Eastleigh in 2014-15 finished fourth in the Conference Premier. The first game in the Conference Premier, in fact, was a 3-0 victory at Nuneaton Town. And their second game was their first ever live television game on BT Sport. Eastleigh beat Aldershot Town 1-0 with an injury time winning goal. The 2014-15 season also saw Eastleigh's second appearance in the FA Cup first round proper, where they reached the second round for the first time by beating Lincoln City in the first round with a last-minute goal. Eastleigh lost 2-1 at Southport in their first ever FA Cup second round fixture. Eastleigh spent their entire first season in the top half of the league and enjoyed an unbeaten run at home and well into the new year. As home form dipped, their away form soared, the club picking up victories at Braintree, Chester, and most notably Bristol Rovers, whom they beat 2-1. Eastleigh featured again on television with a convincing 4-0 home win over Macclesfield. Eastleigh eventually secured a fourth-place finish after 5 consecutive wins, culminating in a 2-1 win at home to Kidderminster in front of a record crowd of 4,024. The playoffs did prove, however, to be a bridge too far for Eastleigh, who were beaten 2-1 at the Silver Lake Stadium and 3-0 at Blundell Park by Grimsby Town to lose 5-1 on aggregate. Bath City in 1984-85 finished fourth in the Alliance Premier League. They were actually founders of the Alliance Premier League and finished fourth, as I said, in 1985. But champions Wealdstone did not meet the Football League capacity requirements, so Bath City were allowed to apply for election to the Football League 4th Division. This was the penultimate season of the electoral system before the automatic promotion and relegation. They narrowly missed out on the election, therefore, to the Football League. Dover Athletic in 2015-16 finished 5th in the National League, which qualified them for the playoffs, but they lost to Forest Green Rovers in the semi-final 2-1 on aggregate. FC Halifax Town, because they're a relatively new club, only have a record of 5th in Conference Premier in 2013-14. Of course, the Halifax number 4 was a much better team. Neil Aspin started the 2013-14 season by signing a 2-year contract. Their first season in the 5th tier did actually start with a disappointing 5-1 defeat to Cambridge United. Town's first win in the 5th tier was against Wrexham, and from March onwards the Shaman won 9 out of 10 matches, keeping 7 clean sheets during this time. Halifax finished their first season in the conference playoff positions, which is the highest placed semi-professional team in the country. Halifax lost 2-1 to Cambridge United in the playoff semi-final, rounding off a sensational first season in the 5th tier. Ebbsfleet United finished 5th in the Alliance Premier League in 1979-80. They were also founding members of the Alliance Premier League. And of course, no playoffs due to the electoral system. AFC Fylde in 2018-19 happened to finish 5th in the National League. They defeated Harrogate Town in the playoff quarter finals, and Solihull Moors in the semi-finals to qualify for the Wembley final against Salford City. Although the final saw them lose 3-0, the club returned to Wembley a week later in the FA Trophy final and won the competition with a 1-0 win over Leyton Orient. The next season, however, was a bit dismal and they got relegated. Slough Town in 1992-93 finished 5th in the conference with 65 points. That's all I've got to say about that, really. Welling United in 1989-90 finished 6th in the conference, and they won the London Senior Cup. They also enjoyed cup success during this period in the first round of the FA Cup and knocked out Kent's only Football League side, Gillingham. Dartford in 2012-13 finished 8th in the Conference National. That surprised many of the top full-time clubs. They won games against champions to be Mansfield Town, for example, Kidderminster Harriers, Wrexham, Newport County, Grimsby Town, Hereford United, and a memorable double over Luton Town. Despite this, the Darts failed to perform well against the bottom half sides, and they lost 10 out of the 16 teams that finished below them. They therefore finished around a comfortable mid-table 8th in their return to the Conference Premier. Bromley in 2017-18 finished 9th in the National League. They reached the FA Cup first round in this season, and which they in turn lost to Rochdale. The season did actually see them reach the final of the FA Trophy, where they lost 5-4 on penalties to Brackley Town after the match had ended in a 1-1 draw. Alfreton Town in 2013-14 finished 11th in the Conference Premier, which is mid-table. They did reach the FA Cup first round, actually, in this season. But I've not got much else to say about that. Chester in 2014-15 finished 12th in the Conference Premier. Chester actually started the season by recording only 1 win in the month of August, and were also beaten 5-0 on the opening day of the season against Barnet. Chester gradually started to pick up form over a 4-month period, and at the turn of the year, Chester had a 4-0 win over Lincoln City. At this point, Chester were hovering around the playoff positions. Chester's form dipped slightly throughout February, March and the start of April. leading to them slipping down the table away from the playoff places. Some of these losses featured heavy defeats at the hands of Bristol Rovers and Forest Green Rovers in early April. However, they ended the season on a high by winning their final 3 games. Chester, in the final game of the season, came back from losing 3-1 to beat Nuneaton Town 5-3. Chester ended the season in 12th place with 63 points. Maidenhead United in 2017-18 finished 12th in the National League. This was actually their first season at this level, surprisingly, and they did reach the first round of the FA Cup, losing 2-0 to Coventry City. They always seem to get knocked out by Coventry City. Have you noticed that? Eastbourne Borough in 2008-9 finished 13th in the Conference National. And to be fair, at the start they were struggling outside the relegation zone. However, after a few loanees were brought in, including Dan Smith and Ashley Barnes, legend of Ashley Barnes, starting off Eastbourne, they both came from Plymouth Argyle, and they signed Dan Brown from Cambridge United. Eastbourne actually managed to stay in the top half of the table after some surprising wins over full-time clubs such as Torquay United and York City, until the last day of the season, losing 2-0 to Barrow. They finished their first season in a comfortable 13th place with 60 points and a goal difference of -12. The season saw Eastbourne play live for the first time at Priory Lane in front of national TV cameras, which broadcast their match against Stevenage, a match they won 2-1. Eastbourne also competed in the 2008-9 season by winning the Sussex Senior Cup, beating Brighton and Hove Albion Reserves 1-0. Maidstone United in 2016-17 finished 14th in the National League. It's just their best ever finish, really. Not much significant about that season. Leamington in 1980-81 finished 16th in the Alliance Premier League. They were allowed to enter the league 2 seasons earlier, and Leamington had struggled. And the season after this, they were actually relegated. So, not the best. Chorley in 1988-89, they finished 17th in the Conference National. They finished 45 points, which was 9 points from safety. Not that good, to be fair. AFC Telford United, quite a short history as well. In 2011-12, finished 20th in the Conference National. 1 place above the relegation zone. But they appeared in the first round of the FA Cup, but they were defeated by Chelmsford City 4-0. Farsley Celtic in 2007-8 finished 22nd in the Conference National. This was actually their first season of the Conference National, and it ended up back into Conference of the Conference North. The old club. So this was actually the old club, however, and it liquidated, and a new one was formed with exactly the same name. So therefore, I'm going to merge the 2 histories together. Haventon Waterlooville in 2018-19 finished 23rd in the National League. They did struggle to adjust, really, and were relegated with 3 matches remaining. On the 22nd of April 2019, Waterlooville released a statement confirming Lee Bradbury had left by mutual consent. The next day, assistant manager Sean Gale was appointed caretaker and manager for their final 2 games of the season. On April 29th, it was announced that former Sutton United manager Paul Doswell had signed a 3-year contract, bringing Ian Baird back to the club as his assistant. In 2006-07, St Albans City finished 24th in the Conference National. The Saints' first 3 games in the conference were a mixed affair, really, with the team winning, drawing, then losing their first 3 games respectively. After that, St Albans had a poor run of games and were hovering around the relegation zone, their hopes being restricted by a part-time team or was going up against full-team opponents. However, Colin Lippiott remained positive about his team's chances, having been knocked out in the FA Cup in the fourth qualifying round by Yeading. The team's concentration was focused on staying in the conference. St Albans started the second half of the season just one place off the relegation zone. In terms of transfers, the Saints allowed defender Dave Theobald to return to the Conference North team at Kettering Town, but they re-signed defender Djamil Zangari on loan from Grays Athletic until the end of the season. Lippiott also signed Chris Waters and Leon Archer from neighbours Boreham Wood for an undisclosed fee on 2-year contracts. In January 2007, director, who was also happened to be the chief football writer for the Mail on Sunday, Ian Ridley left the club amid disagreement over policy. Ridley argued that the club needed to bring in older, more experienced players. He did actually say Steve Claridge as one, to bolster the campaign to stay in the conference. The remainder of the board wanted to maintain a strong reliance of young, hungry players. St Albans continued throughout the new year with a run of poor results, and on the 9th of April 2007, this was Easter Monday actually, a 1-1 draw with Tamworth guaranteed St Albans relegation from the conference, and the team finished bottom of the table. The Saints were the first team to be relegated from conference, but were later joined by Southport, Tamworth and Altrincham. In addition to the Saints returning to the Conference South, Colin Lippiott resigned as manager at the end of the season. In a statement, he stated that it was right and proper for him to leave. He has since rejoined conference side Woking, where he was once manager, as director of football. Kings Lynn, amazingly, highest position was actually last season. So this season coming will actually be their best season, because in 2019-20, they finished first in the National League North. This was, of course, abandoned due to coronavirus pandemic, and the club actually finished second in the league. But they were 2 points behind leaders York City, but they had 2 games in hand. The National League decided, therefore, that the final league table would be based on points per game. This resulted in Kings Lynn being declared as champions and earned promotion to the National League. So next season will be their best. Guiseley finished 2011-12 in a second place for Conference North. And despite finishing second, they lost 2-1 in aggregate to Nuneaton Town in the playoff semi-finals. Brackley Town finished third in the National League North in 2012-13, 2017-18 and 2018-19. In 2012-13, they won the Morsel Cup, as well as then making the record. In 2017-18, Brackley won the FA Trophy, beating Bromley 5-4 on penalties in the final, after the game had ended 1-1. They also finished third in the National League North and reached the playoff final after defeating Bradford Park Avenue 1-0 in the semi-finals before losing 3-0 to Harrogate Town. Chelsea City in 2017-18 finished third in the National League South, which led to another playoff campaign, but the club were beaten 1-0 by Hampton and Richmond Borough in the semi-finals. Speaking of Hampton and Richmond Borough, they also happened to finish third in the Conference South, just 10 years early in 2007-8. But they quickly established themselves in the sixth tier of football. And they reached the playoff final as well in this season. Bit ironic, don't we? They did narrowly lose, however, to Eastbourne Borough. The club also reached the first round proper of the FA Cup, but only the second time in their history in 2007, losing to League Two side Dagenham and Redbridge in front of over 2,000 fans. Spennymoor Town finished fourth in the National League North 2 seasons ago in 2018-19. They finished in the playoffs, beating Bradford Park Avenue 1-0. They then won the semi-finals 4-5 on penalties after a 0-0 draw with Brackley Town, but they did lose the final 4-3 on penalties after a 1-1 draw with Crawley. Who could have said if they won that, they would have done much better? Who knows? Hungerford Town in 2016-17 finished 5th in the National League South, which was actually their first season in this level, and it proved that they could survive. They did actually punching well above their weight as a club, and at one stage the side was in the playoff positions, but did eventually finish. They did eventually finish 5th, or I can't remember, it might mean 6th, but I think it was 5th. But they did reach the final of the Berks and Bucks Senior Cup for the first time in 35 years and lost to National League South champions Maidenhead United. Hemel Hempstead Town in 2017-18 finished 5th in the National League South. A 5th place finish in 2017-18 saw the club qualify for the playoffs. However, they were beaten 3-2 in a penalty shootout by Braintree Town in the qualifying round. Or quarter-finals, whatever you want to call it. Oxford City in 2014-15 finished 6th in the Conference North. On the 18th of May 2014, Oxford City appointed Justin Merritt as manager. He was joined by his assistant Danny Nichols, with coaching roles for former players Mark Jones and Alan Foster, and Enrique Gillen continuing his coaching role at the club. They pushed the club record to a high 6th, 1 point actually only off the playoffs. Dorking Wanderers last season actually had their best season, finishing 7th in the National League South. Because the season was curtailed due to coronavirus, they placed 7th in the league table, decided on a points per game basis. This actually qualified them for the playoffs. They did beat Bath City 2-1 in the quarterfinals, but they did lose 3-2 to Weymouth in the finals. So, Blythe Spartans in 2006-7 finished 7th in the Conference North. This was actually their first season at this level, and Blythe seemed to cement themselves in the top half of the table. They did actually have a brief stint at first place, but the season did end up with Blythe narrowly missing out on a playoff position on the final day of the season. Concord Rangers in 2014-15 finished 7th in the National League South. It was a relatively successful season for the Beach Boys and included many firsts for the club. They reached the first round proper of the FA Cup for the first time in their history, which they eventually lost 1-0 at home to League Two side Mansfield Town in a replay, after Jordan Chiedozu's goal had seen the sides draw 1-1 in the initial tie. In the league, the team improved on previous season's 9th place finish by securing a 7th place finish, and they also retained the Essex Senior Cup with a 5-0 victory over Billericay Town in the final. Again, they played at Dagenham and Redbridge, and by doing so became the first team in 15 years to win consecutive Essex Senior Cups. At the end of this season, long-serving manager Danny Cowley, who you may know as the Cowley brothers from Huddersfield Town, departed the club to become one of the new first-team manager at National League side Braintree Town, having won 3 promotions and 3 cups since his appointment in 2007-8. In the process, he became the most successful manager in the club's history, and his younger brother and assistant manager Nicky Cowley also moved to Braintree to take up the post as assistant manager, having made 268 appearances with the club as a player, the majority as club captain, before making a switch to the coaching role in this season, in the late part of this season. So, Billericay Town in 2018-19 finished 8th in the National League South. They also reached the FA Cup for the first round in 2018-19, which saw Billericay lose 3-1 at home to Chesterfield in a replay. Tonbridge Angels finished 9th in 2011-12 in the Conference South. This was actually their inaugural, that's weird, isn't it? Campaign in the Conference South. So it was a moderately successful season, it could be argued. They haven't really done much better, but they're still round in that league, so you could say they've done well. Gloucester City in 2016-17 finished their highest in 10th in the National League North. This is their current highest finish, with the Southern League being beneath the National League North because they've had higher in the Southern League. It's just very confusing. Chippenham Town, both in 2018-19 and last season in 2019-20, finished 10th in the National League South. They reached the first round of the FA Cup in 2019-20, but they lost 3-0 at home to Northampton Town. Sorry I'm whizzing through this, guys, but I'm conscious of the time and this being a long video. Curzon Ashton in 2015-16 finished 11th in National League North, with manager John Flanagan having his 5th season in charge. Dulwich Hamlet in 2018-19 finished 14th in the National League South. And during the pre-season, Dulwich Hamlet returned to Hamburg in July 2018 for a match against Altona 93 to commemorate the 125th anniversary of the founding of both clubs. There's some sort of link between the clubs that seem to have this sort of training and stuff. They do all this sort of things in pre-season. And the last one is Hereford. In fact, last season they finished 16th in the National League North. They just seem to be constantly improving after the former club Hereford United went out of business. 3 games into the campaign and with 4 points from a possible 9, Mark Richards was sacked as head coach on the 12th of August, with assistant Will Morford also leaving. The club announced that the head of football, Tim Harris, would take interim charge of the side while searching for a new head coach. On the 29th of August, Russell Slade was announced as the club's new manager. Andy Wing joined as his assistant on the 3rd of September. Hereford invested in a new digital scoreboard. That sounds very, very exciting. To improve commercial advertising opportunities. And in September 2019, in its first game in use on 8th of October 2019, coincided with the club crashing out of the FA Cup, ironically, at the third qualifying group stage in a replay against Tamworth, losing 3-1 on penalties, having drawn both 90-minute games 0-0. Sounds a bit boring now, doesn't it? This result was Russell Slade's first home defeat. Tim Harris actually resigned as head of football on the 27th of November 2019, with a position of head of football subsequently being dissolved. On the 14th of January, assistant coach Andy Wing left the club with no reason being given for his departure. Just 6 days later, on the 20th of January, manager Russell Slade also left the club after a run of just 1 win in 18 games. Josh Gowling was named as the club's interim manager on the 21st of January. He appointed Steve Burr as his assistant 3 days later. The season was eventually abandoned with 7 games still to go due to the coronavirus outbreak, with Hereford finishing in 16th place. So we'll see if they can do better. So I would really like to know if you actually enjoyed this. I know it was a long one, but I was thinking, should I do it further down the pyramid or not? Please let me know in the comments. See you then.